Rick,
Well, good morning, Keith Jones.
good morning, Richard. Here we
Hey,
go,
what's
buddy.
uh what's Sarge doing over there? Is he having some lettuce? He doesn't speak much, so that means that he probably has a different diet than most dogs, would you say?
Yeah, he doesn't eat at all. So,
This is an enlightened dog, man. Holy cow.
man, this guy, he just is 100% Zen all the time.
Oh, baby, I love that.
There's no like, not only is he peaceful on the outside, not barking, but internally, there's no disturbances, man. This guy is unbelievable.
He's
And
as smooth as cotton balls inside, isn't he?
oh, he is, man. He's my inspiration. Every time I come in here, I look at him, I'm like, all right. Yeah, just feel it wash over me. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Rick, the title of this podcast is If It's Not This Moment, Situation, or Person That's a Problem, Just Wait. My mind will find a problem in the next one.
Mm.
So again, if it's not this moment, that's a problem. My mind will make a problem of the next one. And before the practice, Rick, and even now, if I'm not conscious, it will happen. I don't care what it is. If I just wait long enough and I'm not present and aware, my mind will find a problem. It
Mhm.
could be the weather, it could be, you name it. So let's say, like, obviously, I have a great job at Mayo Clinic, right? Great job, man. And I know how great this job is. And I've seen people who have heard about an opportunity at Mayo Clinic. They come there, they can't wait to work there.
Mm.
But just wait a moment. A manager, a leader, a coworker would say something, all bets are off. It becomes a problem. This dream job all of a sudden is a problem. You come in one day, the staffing numbers aren't up to where you think they should be. It's a problem. You be asked to do something that stretches you. It's a problem. Like just wait long enough. Something that is a great opportunity. The mind will make a mess of it. If anything deviates from it being exactly the way it is, and this exactness that the mind has, which is only once, it only plays one note. Only, but how many notes are there to be played on a key on a piano? A ton, but it only plays one. That's all it plays. So, how likely, or what is the probability that life, every moment of life, will hit that note? It won't happen. It's impossible. But you have just created that life has to be this way for you to be okay inside. And so, but if you can evolve, become aware and enlightened, you become a person who, whatever notes are played, you've worked on yourself to be able to handle all the different notes. So you don't need your manager to say you did a good job. You don't need them to recognize you in meetings. If they do, great. But if they don't, that's cool too. You don't need staffing numbers to be like optimal. You don't need all that. If it is, perfect. More hands to do the work. But if it's not that day, you okay with that day too. And to work on that. And I see people do it, and I've done it too, that you meet the dream partner. Wait for it. They'll do something or don't do something. You'll make a mess of it. They're no longer. How can they go from your dream partner in one moment and like that, they're not your dream partner the next moment? I mean, how does that happen? It's the mind getting in the way the minute that they don't strike that note that you said is the only note. And you may not even known that you have made this declaration, internally, but you said this is the only note that can be played for me to be happy. And it goes on and it goes on and on. And for years, Rick, I was unaware that this was happening inside. All I know is that I was always upset. It was always a problem. I was going into every room, every space, looking and scanning for what was wrong and what needed to be improved all the time. Like it never stopped. How can you be with people? How can you be with life if you can't accept reality? Like this room is the way the room is. But I'm sitting there like it shouldn't be this way. The lighting is off. The tables aren't right. Who set this up? Who set the design? I should be sitting up front. Why is this person sitting next to me? Getting on a plane. Listen, I put a bag here for the middle seat. How dare this person wants to sit in the middle seat? Like, accept reality. It's a full flight. Somebody's going to sit next to you, or you suffer the whole 4 hour flight. Like my mind will make a problem of everything if it goes unobserved. And
Mhm.
so what I've learned is not to suppress it because it's going to do its thing, but to lean back, watch it do its thing, and not to get involved.
Mm.
And that has been so key for me, Rick. And so now, man, I've gotten pretty good at not creating a problem in this moment and then creating a problem in the next one, or having one of those rare moments of where life hits the note that my mind thinks it should hit. And when the next moment comes up that's different, I no longer get bothered by it. I accept it, accept the reality of that moment just as it is. And in doing so, man, it's just so much freedom in that moment to just see what happens. It all just, it's getting to the point now, Rick, where everything just turns me on, man. It's beautiful. So what are your thoughts, Rick, about that? If
Well,
it's a moment, that's a problem. My
one
mind
of
will
the
the next one.
one of the things that makes you so much fun to be with is that spirit is always there. I mean, sure, everybody who sees these podcasts who has an experience with you has experienced personally what it's like to be around a guy that doesn't have that kind of awful obstacle seeking behavior anymore. One thing I thought was really cool about this is the idea that, you know, you're mindful of when it happens, because it never stops. Never stops. And the reason it doesn't stop is I think it's because it's built into our reptilian brain that it's a negativity bias. You know, for our survival, we have to go out and find all of the things that are likely to hurt us and then stop them. So we're always looking for things that are a problem. The problem is most of the things we look at aren't problems. You know, whether the guy acknowledges you at a staff meeting is not an issue, but your ego is going to make it part of life and death for you. So, you know, my cell phone went off while we were talking, or while you were talking, and I thought at first, this is horrible, and we should stop and start over. And then I thought, this is really a cool moment, because look at Keith. He's going through this interruption, making his point. He's walking the calm road that he's picked for himself. And he's illustrating to the audience exactly how you behave when there's an obstacle. I thought that was just,
thanks, Rick.
This is just such an ironic thing. The cell phone goes off and we're talking about dealing with obstacle. Love that. So I guess for me, I don't know. I always think, I know that I'm going to be a judger. I know every day I'm going to get up and create problems for myself. But the knowing is where I've made progress. The idea that I'm able to monitor and I can say to myself, boy, you are really in it today, man. And just aware of it.
Yes.
You know? Just being aware of it is the key. So
hey, Rick, Michael Singer goes, I love Michael Singer when he talks about this. When people are like, well, how do I get here? He's like, listen, just be aware. He's like, if you can be aware, I'm stopping everything I'm doing. I'm getting on my knees and I'm touching your feet. I'm going to touch your feet because you're spiritually awake. He's like, stop. There's nothing else for us to do here. Let me touch your feet. Like you're a guru. In that moment of just being aware, you become a guru. It's that simple, right, Rick?
Because the awareness gives you the opportunity to make the choice.
Yes.
So sometimes I don't. For example, sometimes, like the cell phone example, would go off, and maybe instead of feeling, okay, that's, you know, not optimal, but it's not a big deal, I would think, now that's the kind of thing that if you were mindful and you knew what you were doing, would never happen. You know, so in other words, I'd still be mindful of the interruption or the obstacle, but I want to go down. I want to play in that for a while. Okay. I mean, that's how screwy we are. So my point is, I guess that, you know, that's just part of being human. And I think Singer is right. You have to recognize it in order to give yourself the opportunity to make the choice. And you can still choose to be in it. It's just not.
That's okay too. That's okay too.
It's just not going to give you a good feeling inside. It's not going to make your heart feel warm and full, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the first rule in this conversation about, you know, finding one thing after the next. If it isn't here today, it'll be here tomorrow, as you said for our topic. I think the first rule is to try to start with the mindfulness that we have, all people have, an untroubled spirit, or at least I want me to have an untroubled spirit. And then the second thing is to look things in the face and see them for what they are. They're not threats to your existence. They're just things that are there. They're just things that are life. And whether they're good or bad is totally dependent on what you decide about them. You have the ultimate goal to assign whatever importance an outside stimulus has to you, as anyone else does. You have the absolute right and the opportunity to decide what's going to affect you. And so if we can just stop and look and say, Rick, or whoever it is, me, I am looking at something that is not a problem, and I want to have an untroubled spirit. This is not consistent with that behavior. And so I feel like I need to act out. Okay, go ahead and act out. Don't
That's right.
but if you want an untroubled spirit, come back in 5 minutes, and then we'll work on that some more. It just doesn't stop, is my point. But you got to have the rule of going through first as an untroubled person, and then you have the choice, because you're monitoring your behavior, to react or not react. And I think as you practice it more, you get better at doing it. And sometimes I get a kick out of it. I was hanging a picture and I couldn't get the damn thing to stick. I kept. It doesn't matter what happened, but it was frustrating because I couldn't get it to end up the way I wanted it. And I ended up taking the hammer and throwing it, and I put a hole in the wall.
Right.
But here's the point. The moment before I threw the hammer, I thought, you're being a child. And I threw the hammer anyway. There you are.
Exactly. Yeah. I just say, man, Pete, I'm sounding like I'm suffering. I think I should stop. Pete goes, you don't have to.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't have to. People come to work every day and complaining about this or that or whatever else, and I don't even try to get them to stop. I'm like, no, keep doing keep doing what you're doing. Like, but I just want to be peaceful like you. Well, that's not going to get you there. Like, right. But you don't have to stop doing that. You keep right on doing that. You can let that be the story of your life if you want to. And I was on that track, man. That was going to be the story of my life. And it's to this point, Rick, about, wanting to have, like, your spirit is untroubled, like you said. What creates the disturbance is these blockages, that we put in place. And so my work throughout the day is recognizing that whatever shows up, however life shows up, it's only a problem if my mind says it's a problem. It's just life showing up. It's so objective and arbitrary. I mean, it's so objective. Like it's got no, it's not good, it's not bad, it's not black, it's not white. It's just what is. And the moment that I'm the one who, like you said, makes the assessment of whether or not it's a problem. And then, and let's say that it is a challenge. Like a flat tire is definitely a challenge. Losing your job is a challenge. So that's challenge number one. You know how it becomes a problem? That's the inside job. It's inside. Then you got two problems. Like, right. And what's worse than one problem? Two. I'm not going to have a problem inside. Like, those days are over. Those days are over. The tire still needs to be fixed. I still need to find a job. So me talking about, how unfair this was, that I got let go, or I lost my position, or I lost all that. You can do all that if you want, but you're just creating two problems, and that becomes a story of life. You can't be present to life. You can't have an untroubled spirit if you're going to get pulled down like that. So, man, I just learned to, like you said, man, this is what the mind does. Wait for it. And when you're waiting for it, you're observing.
That's right.
It will happen. And you don't even have to wait. It's coming. The moment is coming. And whether or not you get involved with it, that's totally up to you, and create a problem of it. And I'm just learning to really get that. And the other point you said, the problem is not out there. Although any work you're going to do, it must start inside. If you're going to really, really be effective, it must start inside. And everything that shows up, man, I just keep telling myself, they're not the problem. That's not the problem. It's how I'm going to interact with this. That's where the work is. And more, I just find myself leaning back and letting go. And I found myself, like, we play pickleball a couple days a week. Big shout out to pickleball. A couple days a week, and and it's always great when you can have even teams. But sometimes somebody's late getting on the court, or there's stuff that happened. Man, that you would work me up. And even now, I found myself trying to make a problem with this. Like, okay, we don't have even players. All right, we make the best of the situation. If other people have a problem with it, that's their practice. My job is not to be bothered by this. Here I am outside in this beautiful community, out in nature. The weather is great. I'm on court. I'm doing something active. It's a social experience. I just named 6 things that make this an amazing experience. But guess what my mind is doing? It's fixated on that one note.
That's right.
And for this to be good, for this to be great, we got to have all 12 players here. 11 won't do it. 13 is a problem. 13 will be okay, but not 11. We can't field 3 sets of, three teams of 4. And then by making that declaration, I've closed off any possibility of still having fun. Mm. I can't. Every 5 minutes, I'm checking my watch. When another person getting here? What? Like, you checking your watch doesn't get them here any faster. And then I relax. Like you said, Rick, I become aware. I relax. I'm like, I'm going to have fun with 11 people. Let's have a blast. But again, the problem wasn't out there. The problem was in here. And then I just removed that blockage. And then we had a great time with 11 people.
Man, that's a great postscript for the whole talk right there. We had a great time with 11 people. We had a great time, even though my mind said there was an obstacle.
It was a problem.
There wasn't a problem. Obviously, you had a great time.
Had a great time, man.
But I think the last thing I'd like to say about it is that just keep in mind that the practice, it doesn't mean you're immune from this stuff. The practice means you have a way of looking at it, and you have a way of behaving that serves you, that keeps suffering at bay. And so the idea is that if we are awake, we're conscious, we're living in the moment, we're present, and we are aware of what our ego is telling us to do and what our choice and commitment is to being untroubled. And that's what we have to make. We have to make very clear to ourselves, and then go ahead and do whatever you're going to do. And eventually, I think you come to the point where you think it's not serving me to go off and throw hammers at the wall. Then right. I got to fix the wall, But the idea is that it never ends. The point is to be human is to go through this. And right. So I think the idea is that you never, I don't think, get to the point where you can automatically, well, I shouldn't say never. And many people, and you're closer to it than me, many people can get to that point. But I think for a lot of folks, just getting to the point where you're aware that you're doing something that is inconsistent with that untroubled nature, that peacefulness that you really want to feel, just getting to that point of awareness makes you awake. And if you can just be awake, that's 90% of the battle.
Exactly. And if you're awake, I'm like Michael Singer, I want to touch your feet because you're there, baby. And that hammer on the wall, that's a metaphor for the hammer to your relationships, you know, and how you treat other people, in your life. So Rick, thank you, man. I love you. I love this episode. Thank you.
This is fun. Yeah. Thanks, Keith. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Okay. I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Okay. Adios.
Adios.